All right, welcome back, tennis and racket sport fans, to our podcast. It's been a few weeks, but we're back in front of you. James and I are ready for the clay court season, but not only are we ready for the clay court season, we're ready to introduce you to what hopefully will be a great new co-host, Miss Sandra Mason. All right, James.
Well, first of all, Sandra, welcome. And a lot of people probably already know your smile when they see this podcast, but we are happy to have you aboard and just share with our audience a little bit about who you are and what brought you to this lovely and wonderful game of tennis.
All right. Well, I started playing tennis about 20 years ago, and I started playing because I've always been interested in tennis growing up as a child, but I never played any kind of sport. So my brother and I, we started playing tennis at VCU in the bubble. It was during the wintertime. Mm-hmm. And he's a VCU alumni. So we started playing tennis, and he's played sports his whole life. So we'd play for a couple of weeks, and then he'd be hurt. And we'd play for a couple more weeks, and then he would be hurt. Because he played football and basketball, ran track and everything. So he always told me that all of my parts were new. Nothing was hurting me at the time. And nothing's hurting me now. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I just decided that I was going to find someone to play with so that I could play more often than when I was playing. So I was on a board, JDRF, with this lady that played at Raintree. Mm-hmm. And she started telling me how you could go to any club and you could play tennis, take lessons, little clinics and stuff like that. And I was like, really? You don't have to be a member? And she was like, yeah. So I sought out a club close to me, and I started playing, taking lessons, clinics. And then from there, people started asking me if I could play on teams, and I joined the club, and I've been playing ever since. Now, I don't know what I did before I started playing tennis. I'm all tennis all the time.
All the time.
Cool.
Awesome.
That is great.
Yeah.
Great tennis story for someone who didn't start out like James and I, who started when we were very, very young.
Yeah.
So what made you fall in love with the sport?
Well, I love the competition, and I hear a lot through my travels with USTA that, it's all about fun.
Oh, yeah.
But it's about fun, but it is about competition and winning.
Yeah, and
also.
we love our competition.
Yes, exactly. So I really love that part. I just started playing more and more, and even with my very bad tennis habits, I got better and better.
Right.
So I would tell everyone that's listening out there, anyone can do it. I was a 2.5 player when I first started, and I got all the way up to 4.5.
Awesome.
But my next step will be down. I've gone up as far as I'm going to go. Yeah. So,
and once you reach a certain level, you can't really maximize what you can do at that higher level. So, it's always good to play at a much more comfortable level. But that's great.
Yeah.
So, tell us more about your involvement in the sport right now.
Okay, so I'm involved at all levels of recreational play. I serve on the Richmond Tennis Association board here in Richmond, Virginia. I am on the USTA National Leagues Committee.
Okay.
And I serve also with our section, the Mid-Atlantic section, on Grievance and Sportsmanship Committee.
Oh, that's a nice committee to be on.
Yeah, don't ask me any questions about that.
Right.
Sworn to secrecy.
So we'll keep, just like the conclave, right?
Yeah.
We'll sworn to secrecy.
Yeah.
James, you got any more questions?
No, I just want to welcome you on board with us, man. I'm excited that you're here and spreading your wealth and experience in the game, and you definitely have the love of the game. And so we're tennis nerds up in here. We love the sport, and it's always awesome to have a fellow nerd join us.
I definitely would call myself that.
Yep. And so we're just happy.
We're just happy. You're right. Mm-hmm. So let's get into it. Again, tennis fans, we have a third. That's always good. Good things come in three, right?
That's right.
So let's talk about this upcoming clay court season. We're in the midst of it right now.
Yep.
In fact, as of this recording, we just had the Madrid Finals. On the women's side, we had a great finals matchup between Coco Gauff, our girl,
Yep.
and Arna Sabalenka.
Sabalenka.
And on the men's side, we had
The return.
something that
the return
was about to come into play.
Yeah.
The resurgence of someone who's never won. Casper Ruud versus who? Jack Draper. Great matchup.
The big
so,
Brit.
which side do you want, Sandra? You're our guest. Who would you want to talk about first?
Of course, I want to talk about the ladies.
You know it.
Of course.
Is there anyone else to talk about?
Sure.
Okay. The ladies.
All right. So, what's your take? What was your take on the finals?
I was a little disappointed in the first set of the match, but Coco picked it up some in the second set, and I was hoping for a third set, but didn't quite make it there. But Sabalenka's always tough for her to play. So,
Absolutely. She's a tough cookie. I mean, she's not the number one player in the world because she can't play. You know? James, what about you?
I totally agree with both of you. Coco, she got off to a rough start in the first set, but I thought she had a chance. She was serving for the second set, but she had double faults and that critical. I think she had 3 in that game, and she ended up dropping her set. And right now, like we talked about this and we text each other, I just said Sabalenka is playing at that level right now that she's just at the top of her game, and you have to beat her. You can't make mistakes against her, and having that service game, I think that would have given us a third set. I think if she'd have won that, and definitely should have gone to the third set. And then I like her fight. I like Coco's fight. Giving her a good chance to maybe pull it out, but you can't double fault. You can't give away points to Sabalenka. She's going to take that and run with it. And I think that's what she did. And she's tough. And she's proven she can play on all surfaces now. She's a clay. She's tough on clay. She was on hard surface. We knew that. Now we just want to see what's going to happen on grass now, just to see if she's really going to dominate this year.
You're talking about Sabalenka.
Sabalenka, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Sabalenka. Coco, Coco, see, the thing is, I cannot get upset because Coco's still, 20 years old?
She's 21.
21? Yeah. Her career is still in the front, and I just feel like, don't worry. I think there's more coming out of the golf bag.
Oh, yeah.
I've been saying that for a while, but we're all big fans,
Well, they say, they call those unforced errors for Coco, but they're sort of forced errors. Because, you can't just hit any 70-mile-per-hour serve over there at Sabalenka. She is going to cream it.
She's going to crush it.
They're sort of forced errors when it comes to those second serves.
You're right. Yeah. But the yips with the serves now, that's not an unforced error. Yeah. I mean, that is an unforced error.
Yes.
And she's tweaking her game. She's still fixing the serve. She's still fixing some of the mechanics behind it, the confidence behind it. Mm-hmm. But the good thing and the good takeaway is, number one, Coco still was fighting.
Yeah, yeah.
Even though, and unfortunately, her backhand wasn't on. If you watch that match, she made both players made a lot of unforced errors on the backhand side. The points were real quick, which is a little uncharacteristic considering Coco's ability to cover. But I love the fact that her forehand was aggressive. That's why she beat down Iga.
Oh, yeah.
This time last year, she had an Iga problem.
Yeah.
Now it's flipped.
Yeah.
So, the good takeaway was that the forehand was aggressive, even though you may not have it on that particular day. It was a little disappointing when she had those opportunities. Yeah. But at the end of the day,
she had a tougher road, though. And when you mentioned that, she did, because she had to beat Andreeva.
Right.
Then she had to play Swiatek, and Sabalenka had to play Kostic and Svitolina.
Well,
Svitolina's tough.
She's bringing balls back.
How many times is Svitolina going to beat Sabalenka?
She's not going to press you like the top players.
Right.
Certainly not like Iga or even Coco.
Yeah. So I think Coco had a tough road to get there, played incredible. That Swiatek match, that's a beatdown. And so I think, hey, the gas was low in that tank after that,
But hey, again, you're right. She had a tougher way to go. So you still got to tip your hats to Coco's performance. Nothing to be ashamed of to lose to the number one player in the world. Come on now. You know, you still walk away with a big fat check. I'll take that
big
fat
time.
check, right?
Yeah, big time.
You know, so
big time. No, I think that's good for her going into going to Rome and then going into to Paris. I think, you know, her camp, you know, they should be happy.
Right.
They should be happy. This was a good result. And was the last American done this since Serena?
Right.
I'm trying to think.
This surface hasn't been good for Americans. So.
It's been a little bit better for the American ladies than certainly the men, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But you're right.
Yeah, we are.
Not unless your name was Serena, Americans just weren't doing it on the dirt. So you're right. Any more things that, you know, shout out at you on the women's side?
Just that for me, I was going back what Sandra was saying, you know, it's just that Coco needs to tighten up some of the errors and stuff, which I know she will do. She is the thinker on that court. You know, and I think she's going to go back. They're going to work on those things, and I'll be ready. I think, you know, then she's made it to a French final before. Yeah. I see her winning it. I can see her winning it, most definitely.
Yeah. But the conditions are going to be a little bit different than France. You know,
you're right.
The one thing about Madrid is that it's higher, so the ball's flying faster. Altitude makes that ball go a lot faster. I think the clay is a little bit different. You remember it used to be on blue clay. Remember that?
Oh, was it really?
And there was controversy about this.
That's right. You're right.
That's before my tennis.
It's actually very recent.
Yeah,
but
that's right.
The players used to really not like the color of the clay. But you know, it's still, as a Masters 1000, it's always played a little different. So, you know, Sabalenka may have had an advantage on this tournament. That advantage will flip to players like Iga, to the faster players like Jasmine Paolini, or even Coco, who can cover the court. Yeah, you know, it's going to be the one who can bring the next ball back and see if you can make the unforced error.
Yeah, these women are athletes, man.
Oh yeah,
they're athletes.
Absolutely.
You're not just sitting there just hitting balls back. They're moving. You know, change of direction, pace of shot. You know, they're amazing to watch.
Yep,
I love the women's game.
All right. Any more? All right. Let's move on to the men. So, James, for you, you get to talk about the finals. What do you think about the finals?
I'm gonna tell you, I was, first of all, I think this is I was happy to see Casper Ruud make his. Well, and I don't want to even say it's a comeback. You know, at this level, everybody's playing hard. These are the best tennis players in the world. All of them have high tennis acumen. One little thing, you know, you get a small injury or something like that can set you back. And it's not like he couldn't play. Casper Ruud still is a baller, man. And and clay is his strongest surface. So, but, you know, you get an injury here, a setback, and you don't know what little. I don't think he was gone. I just think he was, you know, and this tournament, you know, proved he's back. And I think he's going to be somebody to be dealt with. You know, getting this title was big for him.
Yeah.
And you got the emergence of Jack Draper. You know, this Brit, you know, he may be the one.
He might be.
You know, on clay. I didn't think he was going to be as effective on clay with that pop, but he was.
He was.
You know,
he's no Cam Norrie.
No, he's not Cam Norrie. But, and I just look at, you know, look at the people he beat, man. He beat Lorenzo Musetti on clay. Come on.
A serious dirt baller.
Yeah, serious dirt baller. But then you look at Casper Ruud. Casper Ruud took out Mensik, who I think is probably the hottest young player and Cerundolo, who is also a beast on the dirt. So, I mean, they both earned their spot there, and I was happy to see Ruud, you know, emerge and take that title. You know, it's been as big for him.
Considering, I'm sorry, Sandra, what do you think? Did you see the finals?
I did not see the finals, but I saw a match leading up to the finals.
Okay.
And I definitely like Ruud. I'm looking to see more of him in the next tournament.
Okay.
I don't know. I just like him.
Yeah.
You know, I just like him from the start. Yeah. So And it's refreshing to have a new name, to think about.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Now that those three pesky all-time greatest players of all time, especially the one from Mallorca is gone.
Oh, yeah. I know it. The kid.
The floodgates not named Sinner and Alcaraz have opened. So when you think about it, Rude and the likes of a Zverev, who has also done well.
Yes.
Who else? Name any Argentine player that can't play on the dirt.
Oh, my gosh.
Right. The Spanish Armada that's not...
It's not as deep as it was.
You're right.
But as long as you got Alcaraz, he's going to make his mark too. I think.
They're still great clay court players. But Casper has made his living on the dirt. Again, when you're practicing with Nadal every single day, you might learn a thing or two. So, he's pretty good at it. And I was happy to see him win his inaugural Masters 1000. Again, it's at it's at Madrid with the altitude. So we'll see if that translates down in Rome. I'm not Rome, but in France. Clay court conditions are going to be a lot heavier. So we'll see. But I was happy to see him. But Jack Draker was killing it. I mean, that big lefty serve, that big forehand, and the way he grinded throughout the entire tournament, not only the match, which I thought was an exciting match, the way that he grinded throughout the entire tournament. I forgot who he beat early on in the early rounds, but it was impressive. And like I said, he's no Cam Norrie. Cam Norrie's got a little tweak in his game. Draper doesn't have that. Yeah. Draper is clean off both wings, pretty backhand, pretty forehand. So, I'm looking forward to see what both of them do.
He can thump that ball.
Oh, absolutely.
Jeez. Oh, my gosh.
They're just amazing, the speed, power, and them shots. And I think they're kind of building him. I think they're bringing him along. He came off as a youngster when he was like, remember we talked about him, he was like 18 or 19 coming on the scene. He was like, man, this British kid. And then, of course, you have that learning curve. You have to adjust to the game, and you come on the scene. Nobody knows who you are. Yep. But then once they see you, then they analyze your game, and then you have to step your game up again to get back where you were before. And I think he's at that point now where got his fitness together, because that was a question. He always was he going to be fit enough? And he would have physical breakdowns. But that rascal's fit now, and and big. He comes in, he looks like a linebacker walking out there. He's a big guy, but he's strong and agile, very athletic.
Yeah, and that's surprising with some of the tennis players. Like Holger Rune is a big guy too, and he's much bigger than you think. Draper's a big guy. I mean, we know Riley Opelka, 6'10", looking like he should be playing basketball like John. But these players are just huge. They're big, and it's amazing to see them play. And like I said, Draper looked like he was just hustling and really, really easy on the court. He moved very well if you look at the whole match. But that's just my opinion.
Boy, I wonder. He's done well on clay, but what the story for him has got to be. Eddie Britt. How you do on the grass, and that's and I can't even imagine the pressure he's going to see when he comes out there, because they want another, the Brits, and of course, like Americans, we want Americans to win the U.S. Open. French want a Frenchman to win the French Open. Well, England wants a Brit to win, that title. Yeah, and it's going to be tough. So we'll see how it works. But he's got the skills and can pay the bills. And on grass, he should be formidable on grass, his style of game.
But he's got to make that transition from clay to grass. And if you're not ready, it's a tough transition.
Yeah.
So, you guys ready?
Yeah.
Well, I want to know what y'all think about the American men.
Okay. Well, we see why we brought you.
That's right, exactly.
So, in my opinion, the American men are still improving. Tommy Paul is probably the best American hopeful on clay, although James will attest to it. I think it's Sebastian Korda because he's got the one single thing that is better than all the American men. He returns well. If you return well, you have much better chances of playing well, because that's where half your points are going to be won or lost. So, and if you look at his results, I think he's gotten to the quarters of the French. Tommy Paul has gotten deep into the French. Francis, however, not so much, just because he's got I always say he's got a little quirks in his game. He doesn't play the points out well enough. It doesn't look like, even though he's very fit, he doesn't look like he's willing to grind. Yeah. And that's what you have to do on the dirt. So, James, what do you think?
Yeah, you hit a soft spot with me on Francis Big Foe.
I'm sorry.
He is, because man, Foe I just think he brings so much to the game, and we need him in the game, and we need more players like that. And he's run into a spell, and I think like anybody else, ebbs and flows.
Yep.
And I think he's in that ebb, but he's too good of a player, and he's too good of an athlete, and he's an intelligent player too on that court. And I think, he's had some physical issues too that he's been dealing with, like everybody. But I think once he gets himself straight, he'll be ready. The clay is tough for him. He can't play on the clay. I mean, he's done well. He did well at Dallas. And so I don't think it's that he can't play on the clay, but it, like you were saying, it takes a lot on clay, and you have to endure and stay fit and stay at that level, and it just it requires that extra thing, and I think he can get there, and I would like to see him make a run. I'd love to see him make a run at the French. I think he'd be great to see that happen. Will it happen? I don't know. It's just going to be tough. Now, I think also we got to look at who are the top American men, and
Shelton and Taylor Fritz.
We didn't even
mention them.
Yep, that's what I was getting ready. I was going to talk about Ben Shelton. He had a great showing on clay, and he's improving. You can see him. His first time on clay was a bust. It's tough. It's tough, and then you're playing the best dirt ballers in the world. This is the stuff they eat, and so for him, but each time he gets a little better and a little better. And I just tell everybody, be patient with Ben Shelton. I think he could be on the verge. Maybe not this year, but in time, I think he's going to become something special. And I think, me personally, I think he will play for a Grand Slam title. I would say within maybe a year or two, he'll be playing for a title and possibly could win one.
Oh yeah,
it's just keeping it together. He's got all that power and everything, but people learn how to. That's why at this level, this thing amazing, because these guys, they're hitting balls 140 miles an hour now. But then you see players who eventually can return them.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And so then you have to change your game again. You got to do other things with it. You can't just blast it through somebody. You're going to have to, put some spin on it and curve on it and placement and everything. And I see his father's working with him, and I think he's good to have him in his corner. So I think we'll look for him and to make some inroads, and I think to develop as a player. I think he has a championship in him. I really do. Now, will he be the first? Yeah,
we'll see.
Taylor Fritz has come very closer than most.
Yeah.
And people think it's his time too.
Certainly on the hard course.
On the hard course, yeah. Mm-hmm, definitely.
Yeah. Well, does that wrap it up for the Madrid?
Yep. Let's ready for Rome. Bring it on.
So let's talk about that real quick. Yeah. So the next tournament up is the International Biennale d'Italia in Rome, Italy. It starts later on this week. Just like the Sunshine Doubles. Just like the Sunshine Doubles.
Can you say that 3 times?
In America, where we have Indian Wells and Miami Open, we also have the Dirty Socks double with Madrid and Rome.
I like that, the Dirty Socks double.
What? No.
I've never heard that before.
No, I thought it was just me.
Yeah, no.
I think he just made that up.
I just made that up.
Oh, okay.
I think he just made it up.
I found you out. That was pretty good. I like that.
So the Dirty Socks double. Remember that, people. I just coined it.
You better patent that right now.
I'm patenting it now.
Put them T-shirts out.
Leading up to the last tournament, who are your favorites for the French Open? So Sandra, again, you're our guest.
Yes,
hopefully you will become our third host. What do you want to start out with?
Well, I mean, for both the men and the women, I'm right there with the number ones in the world.
Yeah.
Okay.
What can I say?
Yeah.
I just think both number ones are gonna just kill it
That's right.
in both tournaments.
Now hold on now.
Well, maybe not kill it.
Not kill it. I like the idea of killing
but-
it, but let's just make sure we understand.
Yeah,
Iga is no longer number one.
I know.
Arna Sabalenka is number one, but she's never won the French.
Yeah.
She's doing better and better each year. On the flip side, you got Yannick, who's number one technically, but he hadn't played in 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we'll see what he does in Italy before we get to Paris. So he's not really coming in as a hot hand into the tournament. That's just my spin on it.
Right.
You know, I think that there are some other. Let's look at the men's side. The men's field is wide open. You can't really say, even though Carlos is the defending champion, he's been a little up and down this season so far. He hadn't had his best results on the clay yet. Hadn't quite got that niche because he had a few tweaks in his game and you can kind of see that ultimately, long term, I think they're going to benefit him for his overall game. So he may not be the same favorite that he was going into it. But everybody's really a player that's could be a favorite. You know, the hot young one players. We talked about Yannick Mensik. We talked about Yao Fonseca. Or Fonseca. Holger Rune. He just won another tournament. Prince Sarandolo. Thank you. Who else? Zverev has also done well. Mm-hmm. All of these guys can potentially, even Casper, all of these guys could potentially take the French Open for the first time, except for Carlos, since he's already done it. Mm-hmm. But on the women's side, I think, like you're saying, it's only a few people. It really is only a few people. That's just my opinion.
I don't know. I think the women, like Sabalenka, okay, you got to put her out there first,
right?
Okay, and she's playing really well. But but the tour takes a toll on you now. Can she keep that level up?
Yeah.
You know, through Rome and into Paris. I don't know. You know, very few people are able to do that. So, but if she's on, if she's hitting on all cylinders, it's going to be hard. I'm with Sandra. It'd be hard to count her out. If I would, think that, she could lose. But if you say, are you going to put your money up on it? I say, no. Right. I'm going to go with her. But in Iga Swiatek, how big was that bruise when she got, when she got beat down by Coco, and she's the type of player, and she uses that as energy, to come back because she hates to lose and that was a loss that
that's got to eat at her.
Eat her big time.
But the conditions are going to be different in Paris.
Yes. And it's slow.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just saying. So I would look at I would say I would still put Coco in the mix.
Definitely. And because she's been a finalist.
That's right. And also we got to look at my little girl, the little Jasmine Paolini.
My favorite.
She gets on a roll.
I like her too.
And it's going to be great to see her in Rome too, because they're going to she's everything. They're going to be and the thing is she doesn't. That's the one thing that's different about her now, because she's been around for a while.
Right.
Jasmine's not new on the scene, and those moments when she would play, when she scrappy. She was always scrappy and fight, and she would just drop down. But now she used that motivation, and those moments that she used to drop, now she picks this game up and using that incredible footwork. She moves around the court, gets to everything, and can generate a little power off the ground too when she has to. So I always put her in the mix there. And then on clay, come on, that's she's a fish in the water on clay. And then you got the teenager, man, Mira Andreeva. Folks,
it's a good point.
Be afraid.
Yes, be afraid.
Be afraid of that 17-year-old now, because she goes out there like she's playing like a high school match or something. I mean, there's no, what I'm saying? She doesn't seem like she's, and that's one of those, I think that's one of those key factors when you look at and assess a young player, can they make it on the tour? It's that intimidation factor, and she doesn't have it.
Yeah, she has no fear.
No fear.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, do you realize? And so she's one also you might want to look at. I mean, she could make a deep run in this thing, and Badosa could also come in there. She's great on clay, but I think they're first. I think it's more wide open than we think. I don't think it's going to be a Sabalenka cakewalk.
Oh no!
And she, and if she has one of her moments, which she can have sometimes, where she loses it, the greatest racket breaker. I'm about it out because when she gets mad.
Right.
Oh my gosh! But and that throws her off. So I think her team needs to really work. They work at trying to keep her level because she can go off and that's all they need at that level. They just need you to one little thing. Yeah, they're in. So I think women's side is wide open. You
really do. Me personally, like I said, I don't think it's. I think the men's side is wide open. I think it's really down to just a few players, former champions. Obviously, Iga, she's a 4-time champion. Sabalenka's been to the finals. Coco's been to the finals. Yeah. We forget.
Madison Keys has been to the French Open finals.
Yeah, Madison Keys. Yeah. That's a dark horse you don't want to see in your half of the draw.
Yeah.
Jelena Ostapenko. She's a
we didn't even talk about her. Yep,
again,
that's right.
I would not want to see her.
Yeah, I know it. Yeah.
You don't know which one's going to show up.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
She can take the racket out of your hand too.
That's true. That's true.
You're right.
One American. We haven't talked about one American though.
Oh, who? Jessie.
She's
going to beat it. You can go ahead and pencil her into the quarters. After that, it's a coin flip. Yeah. Not because she can't play. It's just how she going to hurt you. Mm-hmm. Best 2 out of 3. You take your chances. If she's on, it's going to be a long day. Bring your hard hat and a lunch pail. But if she's not on, or if you are on, and she's just having her, pro level day, you can beat her. And there's nothing wrong with that because that's a testament to her ability. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't consider Jessica to be the top threat. I mean, obviously, it's just going to be those players that we've already mentioned. Mm-hmm. Same thing with Svitolina. Mm-hmm. She's playing awfully well, very consistent, pesky, bringing everything back. But what can she hurt you with? And when she does try to redline it on her ground strokes, you see it go off the rails. That's the one drawback to the easy power. But when you have easy power, like you said it, Madison, like Ostapenko, like Sabalenka, all they have to do is reel it in a little bit. You're gonna have a tough day. Yeah. So that's just my opinion.
Yeah. Well,
but I like that. That's good.
But
any real dark horses on either one? Any one player that you see is coming out of the woodworks?
Women, well, I don't know if she'd be a dark horse, but I would say Qin Wen-Jing. Athletic, moves incredibly well, and she just had them moments where she's had them little lapses, but game wise,
right,
scary.
Right, definitely,
she could be scary.
She's an Olympic champion, certainly, but clay is not her friend.
Not her friend, yeah. Well, it requires her to be on that court, and it takes away some of those gifts that she automatically has with the power and off her strokes and everything. Yeah, clay is, it's a different beast than, those dirt ballers. They understand it.
Yeah, that 1-2 combination, if you can't take the racket out of the player's hand, is not going to be as effective. Yeah. Now, when we move to the grass court season, we can revisit that. But, that's just me. I don't think she's going to do as well. Sandra, do you have a dark horse?
No, I think those players we already talked about are definitely going to get the best of anybody that might be considered a dark horse.
Yeah. No dark
horse. Unless there's an injury or something,
Yeah,
which the clay courts can always be some kind of
real good
injury, pulls and.
When you're out there stretching and sliding and all of a sudden you hit the tape at the wrong point and all of a sudden you go tipping over like a cow.
Oh man!
The
injury to Zverev, that French Open injury,
the ankle injury that
he had. Oh my gosh! Yeah,
It took them years to get back.
Yeah, yep.
And there's always a chance of that.
Always.
With that sliding.
Always, yeah. But
yeah.
It'll be
but let's hope not.
Let's hope not. We don't want any injuries.
No,
we want
injuries.
We want everybody to be at the best, playing the best, and giving us the best results. So yeah. But it is sport.
It is sports.
Yeah.
And sports is always exciting.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. So that's what we have for the French Open. But let's kind of segue into another aspect since we've been talking about the top players. We both mentioned that the top players are going to be favorites. Both Iga's no longer the number one player in the world, but Iga Swiatek on the women's side, as well as Jannik Sinner on the men's side. Oops, strike. Both Jannik Sinner on the men's side and Iga Swiatek on the women's side. So let's bring back a bit of controversy now that we have Sandra in the room to talk about the kind of preferential treatment that these players seem to have gotten. So James and I discussed this a couple episodes ago, where I'm just going to ask this basic question. Do you think that the Swiatek and Sinner suspension periods were fair, or did those two players get preferential treatment?
Of course they got preferential treatment.
Right?
I mean, they're at the top of the game.
Right.
They have preferential treatment in everything.
Yeah, you're right.
As far as the sport goes.
That's true.
That's just the way it is. Everybody else got to work hard and get up to that level. You know.
Yeah.
There's just no way around it.
To the victor, the spoils.
Yeah.
I mean, they put butts in seats, so they're going to give them preferential treatment. Yeah. But is it fair?
Oh, I didn't say it was fair.
Right.
Yeah,
now we get to the meat of things.
It's definitely not fair.
Right.
You know, I'm definitely a rule follower in all that I do. So, I mean, I just think that you know, the rules should be followed no matter what the rating is or ranking is. You know, that's my a personal opinion, as you keep saying,
no
of the situation, but that's just not the way it is.
Right.
So
hear that, Iga and Yanni? If Sandra's on that committee, y'all are doing 2 years.
Exactly.
But anyway.
Exactly. So everybody's the same.
Right. Yeah. But and that's a good point. We understand that they get players that are, you know, the number one player in the world is a draw. So at the end of the day, they are going to get preference. It's not fair, but what can we do to fix that? Yeah. What would you think, James?
Well, one thing you do to fix it, and I don't, you know, and the thing is, I don't know how you can really fix it at this point, because tennis is a sport, right? And it's entertainment, but it's a business also. Yeah. And a business has to do with, you know, when we watch a tennis tournament, big tournament, you look in that stadium and you see all those sponsors. Some of them don't have nothing to do with tennis, but they're all up in there. Sponsors all around, banks and everybody. Well, the reason why they spending that money to help build that court, to pay for that, you know, to support of that tournament, is because they want people looking at their advertisement.
Right.
Because that's, you know, that's money. They generate. And so are we, you know, a lot of people going to be watching the match when you have the 175th player playing the 200 player? I don't even know who they are.
Right.
Okay, no. But they definitely going to watch when the number one player is in there, the number two player is in there. And so from that aspect, like Sandra's saying, you know, it's not fair, but it's just the way it is. And, you know, should it be that way? No, it shouldn't. I think, you know, tennis has done a lot to try to have the equity as far as, you know, payment for players and stuff. If you're on the top of the heap, you get it all.
Right.
You get it all. But if you're at the bottom of the heap, you're struggling, you're in those challenges, and you fit most of that bill yourself.
Right.
You know, and I didn't even realize they don't even pay for your hotel rooms at that. You know, you got to pay for your own hotel room. And you playing for what, maybe $1,500 if you win, and you done spent $600 of that feeding yourself, you know, or paying your coach if you had to, you know. So by the end, you're in a deficit. So, so that's just the way it is, and you gotta embrace that and say, okay, I just gotta work harder because my day is coming. But that's what that's down in that lower level. And that's the way they live. On the top, they're in the deluxe apartment in the sky. And so and it's just a different world. And so the expectation is that we're going to cater to these people. And so when we say, how would you change it? I don't even know. I really don't. If we can we take the corporate angle out of there where money is? I think that horse is out of the gate, and I don't think we're going to get it back now. Not with the commercialism, tennis. It's just where it is. There was a time where anybody could sit anywhere in a stadium. That's not the case anymore. If you don't, if you're a corporate box, corporate people get those seats, the best seats. I don't care how, and that's just the way it is because they paid, for that. And so just like on that level, the top players, they're going to get those preferential treatments.
Right.
And so the answer, once again, I don't know how it can be changed at this point.
Well, and like you just said, that's just the way it is. That's the same way with the number 200 and 300 in the world trying to move up to number one. Mm-hmm. Obviously, if that first draw or that first round, or maybe second round, they might get one of the top players, and maybe they might beat them. Mm-hmm. Because this is a new player to the top player too. They haven't seen this person play in most cases and stuff. So they might get them in that second round, but by the third round, they don't have all that support that number one player has. So their fitness and their nutrition, and these people are traveling with 5 or 6 professionals that's helping them get to that next level. But you've come here with your mom or dad or coach or whatever it is, so you don't have all that support. So then you go out in the third round, after beating the top player in the second round. So that's not fair either, but you just have to work hard and get to that point in your career where you can afford to have more people and more support.
You have a team.
Yeah. So, I think it all works the same with everything as far as the sport goes, especially in tennis.
Yeah. And again, players have complained at the professional level, the fact that it seems to be arbitrary, if you have the ability to put a team behind you, you can get over somewhat. You can definitely challenge that suspension. But if you're a player that doesn't have that behind you,
right,
and that it really becomes unfair. And I know players like Novak, and when Roger was on tour, Roger was complaining about it does not seem to be the same for each and every time, And even when Sharapova got caught with a banned substance, she didn't even know. Well, she had suspicious circumstances anyway, but it seemed to just come out of nowhere. 1 year, this substance was good, and then the next year, that same substance that you've been taking for a full year is now banned. Right. Well, what happened? Seems a little arbitrary. So, the players have complained. I think it's the International Doping Agency that governs most sports or helps govern most doping sports. They just need a consistent way of measuring what is a banned substance and telling the players, and then having an arbitration that is fair. Once they get that down, so that no matter who you are, what you do, or when you did it, you're going to be treated the same. That's when it becomes a joke, and that's why it's not fair. But,
so I think, also too, some other things, maybe even not looking at that, but how we can make it fair, I think, is to try to make it so that players, especially like we talk about those players struggling, that they're able to stay on the tour long enough to give themselves an opportunity to get that big win. Right. And so I think some of the top players years ago, I don't know if they're still doing it now, but a lot of the players, like I remember Federer and even Djokovic and I think they say, we'll be willing to take a little less at the top, and you take that down to make sure that those players, who are coming in at, 300, 400, 500, that they're able to stay on the tour and get the training they need, and so maybe that in some way could start making it a little more equitable, because you have more players who can stay on the tour, who get an opportunity to raise up and to move up into their careers. And maybe that, I'm just saying there's things that might help us, just if we, instead of having 5 people at the top winning it all, maybe we had 15, 20 at the top, who are equal. And to get that opportunity, you have to have the training, you have to have the support, you have to have all those things like you were saying, Sandra, with the trainers, the physio. If everybody could have a team, how much more equity would there be in the sport, And maybe that, I don't know. I'm just saying, maybe if you look at something, maybe that could be a means to make it more equal for everybody. If everybody had a fair chance to, to be.
And that's really missing in this sport, in tennis, because, NFL, MLB,
team,
NBA, they all have teams. And they have,
and all that's incorporated in your team.
Exactly. So they have all that stuff.
Tennis,
readily available for them.
But the tennis, you're your own team.
You're your own team, yeah.
And everybody, I want to thank my team. Everybody's on your payroll.
Yeah.
Right. They're happy too, because when you won that title, they get a check.
Right.
Their check increases. I mean, they'll get money anyway, so I think about those players that, they're struggling to keep a coach, because the coaches, they might love you as a player, but if you can't pay them,
yeah,
they're not, and they most of them expect to get, you pay their travel expenses, you pay for their food. A lot of them have clothing. So if you are sponsored by ASICS, well, he's going to get all that free ASICS gear. So all of those things, is on a player, and that's tough. You got to keep winning. Got to keep winning.
Sure. But just like Sandra did in her introduction, it's competitive. So to the victor goes the spoils.
Yeah.
Not to say that this is unfair.
It's sport.
It's sport.
Yes.
Sport.
And
Sport.
that's the reality that we have.
Yep.
But I think all valid points. Very good. Well, I think that's enough for this first successful Sandra Mason introduction to Which Side Do You Want?
Yeah.
I hope our viewership thinks the same.
I think they
and
will.
Hopefully
I hope so.
we get a bump in subscribers and people from the Richmond area, Richmond, Virginia, Chesterfield, all Central Virginia area.
Greater Richmond area.
That you start to follow us and start to see what we're doing, support us. So continue to check us out, see what we're doing. James, you got any parting shots?
No, I just want to say this is that great time of the year. Right. We're getting ready to go to the French, and then around the corner is Wimbledon. This is for tennis players, tennis nerds. This is the best time of the year.
Absolutely.
That's right, because tennis is on, and I remember the dark days when you didn't see any tennis on television.
Right.
Like once in a while, and if you saw it, it was taped from like 2 days ago, day before, and you didn't want to read the newspaper because you wanted to see it. But now we get to see it, live, and it's great. And I applaud the networks for trying, for expanding it. And just it's a great time to watch tennis. So go out and watch tennis, folks.
Yeah.
And play tennis.
Yeah.
Just watch it, play it.
And pickleball, because we also have
pickleball.
That's right. All right.
Too.
Okay, so, the first time you heard that on this podcast, but we endorsed some pickleball.
I'm sorry,
now.
trouble. If y'all don't see me again later, you know what happened.
But again, thanks very much for all you fans that come in and tune in and watch us talk about tennis. And we hope to see you soon. And as we always say, so Sandra, as a way of closing out, we all did a fist pump in the center. So we're all going to fist pump and say our catchphrase.
Go out and hit a tennis ball.
Go hit a tennis ball.
Hit a tennis ball.
Yes.
Or a pickleball.
You stole my line.
There you go.
Thank you guys for inviting me.
Thank you for coming out.